And we're live. Welcome to Red Pill University. I am Joe. I'm joined tonight with James and Mike. And tonight begins our 200 series course material, starting with a deep dive into frame. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what frame is. We're going to define it. We're going to talk about what creates it. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how to improve it. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring up our show notes. All right, so Mike, I think we're going to put you in the lead seat tonight because this is your baby. I think maybe not. Mike, you still there?
Oh shit!
I see him moving. Can you hear us, Mike? Nope, we lost him. All right, we're going to continue on. We'll figure out the technical difficulties after the fact. We were good earlier. I don't know what happened. So, having yourself as your own mental point of origin or your worldview. This is defining frame. We're going to talk a little bit more. He is pinging me over on Discord, it looks like. Uh-oh. Technical difficulties. Who knew? All right. So, James, also, some of this is going to be your input. Remember that.
No, I know, yeah. I'm waiting for your lead.
All right. So, having yourself as your own mental point of origin or your worldview, your values, your belief, your mission in life, your likes and dislikes, your wants and desires, all of this kind of comes together to form your frame. It's a fully congruent expression of your worldview in every action, behavior, and word, and it's living fully and openly in character with your own authentic self. We're going to talk about frame testing in a future episode, what most people would call shit testing or congruence testing. And when women are challenging you, it's to check and see if this stuff is legit. If what you're throwing out into the world, what you're presenting as your frame, is actually you or just kind of playing at being. Hey, Mike, if you can hear us, your devices are not connected. So I think we lost Mike tonight. He'll be back. All right. Iron rule number 1. It's number 1 for a reason. And this comes right out of Rollo's book and blog. This is probably the only time we're going to mention him tonight, believe it or not. Frame is everything. Always be aware of your subconscious balance of whose frame in which you are operating. Now, I don't know if we're going to get to it a little bit later, but frame actually can be broken into two different things. It's the piece that we just discussed, your likes, your desires, this internal frame that you project out into the world. And then there's the framework of the social interaction of whose frame are you operating in. I think we need to be very careful in that we separate these two things out.
Right.
Good. We're ahead of ourselves. Many people believe frame is a mask that you can appear to. This is where you kind of fake it until you make it. And not so much. When it comes to frame, either you've got strong frame or you don't. It's a very polarizing thing. Now, you can actually have weak frame and have others in your frame if their frame is even weaker than yours. So this can kind of, and also you can have strong frame, but be in somebody else's frame if the social interaction calls for it. So you might be a very dominant, kind of a determined guy with really strong frame, but if the boss has weaker frame, the boss is still the boss. You still got to just kind of swallow your pride and do as you're told. Kind of keep your head down. So just be mindful of how that dynamic can kind of come into play, because you can actually think, oh, we got Mike back. All right, Mike, we got you back.
Yo, it's Mike.
Can you hear us?
Hey.
All right. Hey, Mike, why don't you pop into the voice chat over on Discord? This way you can at least hear us as we discuss this, because we've lost you a few times, even though you may have still been online.
I think he's lagging as well. His responses are like,
All
yeah.
Right. Well, that's unfortunate.
But anyway, another important thing, an important key concept to get is that frame is not power. Frame. I mean, low SMV guys can have strong frame and still get laid, but that's just because they're operating within their own worldview. We'll touch on this later, but I call it like operating from a delusional frame where they think that they know everything, and so that they're so confident in their actions that it seems like they know what they're doing, but you need some like you need some actual success in the real world for that to progress. So frame isn't power. Frame is just your beliefs and the level of strength. I would say personally, the level of strength of a frame, I guess, is your conviction.
Yeah, conviction or willpower, I guess, is one way I would put it. That's the internal frame that we're talking about. What you project out into the world as others, like he's saying right here, projecting frame is another misplaced idea.
Right.
When I say projecting, I'm talking about it in different contexts. You're not faking it and projecting out a facade.
Yeah.
It's an actual internalized thing that you have. It's an internal willpower, basically.
Right. Yeah. And holding frame, yeah, everyone talks about holding frame. And that's just not even, it's just fake news. That's not even a real thing. You just have a weak frame.
Yeah, you're playing at having frame when you really don't.
Yeah.
Yep, there he is again.
Yeah, we're just on audio. I apologize.
That's all right.
Oh,
no,
nice.
that's
as long
fine.
as you can get audio.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys know what I look like.
All right. So let's back the train up the tracks here just a little bit. We'll go back because I know Mike's got some awesome some comments here. So we started to talk about this. We kind of moved on a little bit because we weren't sure you're going to be back.
Yeah, all good.
These things happen, folks. It's live. Yeah. All right. So I'm just glad the power hasn't gone out. We had a big thunderstorm here a little bit ago. So having yourself as your own mental point of origin or your worldview, your values, beliefs, we've already talked about all this. Mike, what is your input on this?
Yeah, I think a lot of, we'll get into misconceptions in a second, but really the big word on this slide that matters for me is congruence, is making sure that, that's what having a strong frame means, is every action, every behavior, every word that you say is reflective of who you are deeply as a person.
There you go. And moving on to, did I miss this? No, we're good.
Yeah, skipped over iron rule number 1.
Shit. No, I didn't. There it is. You had me. So iron rule number 1 is the first rule for a very good reason, like I said a moment ago. Your take on this? I know we've kind of done this one to death and just kind of drove it in the ground with the previous episodes, but we're here tonight about frame, so let's talk about it.
Yeah, we look, the best way to the second sentence here, always control the frame, but resist giving the impression that you are, is just that it's that quiet confidence that we talk about all the time. Oh, Red Squill, YouTube member. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for the follow there. Yeah, I think this goes into like a laws of power type of thing where you are the art of war type thing where you are not wanting to make it seem like you are trying to dominate the interaction. It's just your confidence of self rather than you trying to actually control other people. And we'll get into the difference later.
Yep. Someone's got some music playing in the background. Let's see here. Misconceptions. We talked about this a moment ago, right before you got back. Frame is not power. Frame is not interest level. We kind of clarified projecting frame. There's projecting where you're kind of faking it, and then there's the internal frame that you exude.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally spot on. And it's worth noting the last two there are straight from Rollo. Like his post on frame, it's a great post. Go read it. But it's not necessarily having to work in power dynamics. And we talked about it a little bit about this on the pre-show, where naturally there will be competing frames in any social interaction, but it's not a straight up power play, if that makes sense.
Right. That music's on my end. I got 1 second. We're going to move on.
You just gotta yell at whoever's playing the music in the background.
Yeah, teenagers, right?
No worries.
All right.
Fucking teenagers.
So, and also, I think this is the last time we reference Rollo in the show notes.
I think so.
Yeah, just a little blip. There he is. Okay, moving on. So, why is having a strong frame and congruence so attractive? I think, James, this was one of yours, right?
Not specifically, but I definitely can talk about it.
Yeah.
having a strong frame is so attractive because, well, being successful. Okay, it's all about. I have a good note on this. I thought I need to look it up though. I wrote this. I just can't keep it in my head because
No,
I
it's
have
all good.
mental issues. Okay, so frame being certain of your reality is very attractive to women. So competence and certainty are two very strong components of the ultimate, what I call the ultimate frame. And being certain of reality is a component of a strong frame, but actually having that frame have a basis in reality and being able to accomplish things like gathering resources or gaining social status are
That's such a great
really
point.
really important. So right, so that's why there's the difference between the low SMV guy with frame who gets laid sometimes and the high SMV guy with frame who gets laid a lot more. And the attraction just comes from the same. It's generated by the same mechanism as any frame generates attraction. They test your frame to see how you navigate through the world, to see like how you react to things. More specifically, it's like they think that if you can pass their shit tests, that you're somehow competent in the real world, which is to a degree true, but not 100% of the time. And that's what generates attraction. You pass those frame tests, and it turns them on. We don't know the mechanism for that.
Well, I think one of the reasons why that attraction generation happens, I refer to shit test as a frame check, right? Is they want to see, do you have a strong frame, or more specifically, how strong is your frame?
Mm-hmm.
And I think whenever you indicate that you can pass a shit test or frame check or whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
essentially you are saying that, hey, I'm capable of having emotional stability and self-validation, all of these individual attributes that add up to a whole of, look, I have my stuff together, you can rely on me. Right. I'm a strong person in a number of different domains, and I have value beyond just what you see at the surface level. So the SMV piece is, largely that's a lot of largely superficial stuff with SMV that we talk about early on in RPU. This is the deeper stuff that, can you provide emotional comfort abundantly without having a covert contract? Mm-hmm. How else is a woman going to know that if she just met you? She's going to test you.
Now I'm going to go a little old school here too, because this is something that I think Mystery hypothesized decades ago now, over 10 years ago. And the idea is that the reason why women test for congruence is that if you can't stand up to little old her, then how can you defend her against the big bad world? So this is where that strength check, this is why women are attracted to men of taller guys. They evoke naturally emotions of protector and provider. There's all these different aspects of this evolutionary kind of psychology and biology that kind of plays into it as to the why. So now what we can talk about is, what does that actually mean for us? How can we use this to our advantage to improve these aspects of our lives? And I think that comes up on the next point. A strong frame is a personal quality that is earned, not given. Mm-hmm. How is it earned? Going through the crucible of life. All of your experiences, all of your competence that builds confidence. We've talked about this before in previous episodes. This is why we came up with the training wheels methodology, to get that quiet competence, to develop confidence as you go through your life. Yeah. And then also being competent, like James said a little bit ago, is massively attractive to women in various regards. So and also the stoicism that comes along from being competent.
And being competent, I mean, yes, lends you to being confident, and it also lends when you're actually competent and you have received external validation through success, positive outcomes in life, then you can be confident, and then that leads into the outcome independence that you are really chasing. Not like at the beginning when you convince yourself that you don't care about something, but like when it actually doesn't matter to you, even if whether you care about it or not, but in reality it doesn't matter to you.
Yeah,
that's interesting. A lot of people find their way to outcome independence by degrees, I think.
Yeah. Just a really quick shout out to the folks watching on the live stream in the comments on YouTube. We usually get through the comments at the end of the show, so stay with us as we get through the presentation. Then we will go back and answer the questions in the order they were asked. Super chats kind of just jump ahead if you guys can't stick around. We do, that's another option as well. And also the folks on Discord, we are watching you guys live, so hit us with your comments and questions there. So was there anything else on this slide, James, Mike?
I'm good on this one.
Yeah, I think we got it.
All right. So strong frame.
These are indicators of what a strong frame looks like.
Yeah. So speaking with conviction, a high degree of ego mastery, which, do you want to take that one? This is not my strong suit when it comes to ego mastery. I'll be the first one to admit that's always been something that I think I've struggled with a long time.
Well, everyone struggles with it. It's not something. I think probably maybe Hindu monks, right, have a true mastery of the ego. But I think for most guys, it's just this practical understanding of like, you get the go back to Dr. Freud, right? You've got the id, the ego, and the superego, right? And the ego's job is to translate between the id and the superego. And the id is basically what we all refer to as like the animal brain. We've talked about that on the stream before. And when you talk about ego mastery, it's essentially understanding that instinct is there to protect you, but having that higher cognitive function to be able to say, you know what, is this really toward my mission? Is this really going to be constructive for me in the long run? And if you can start to do that and actually ignore the messages that your ego is sending back and forth between your animal brain, you can actually train yourself to have a more constructive mental model. So that's what this ego mastery is about. It's having positive feedback loops within yourself, having a positive mental model that feeds where you ultimately want yourself to go. And as James pointed out, there are degrees of external elements there that are going to create this healthy validation, right? If you have absolutely no basis to be able to say, like, I'm a strong guy. If you're 120 pounds soaking wet with marbles in your pockets and you're not lifting at all, and you're just maybe walking around the neighborhood or doing a couple push-ups every now and again, you don't really have the true external validation of, yeah, I deadlifted 500 pounds or I squatted 400 pounds. I'm a strong guy. You don't have that external data point, right? So that's where your ego comes in. You need to learn to either listen to those messages or not listen to those messages, and know where they're coming from. So that's the ego mastery piece.
And you did touch on the models in a sense. So this actually kind of overlaps with a really good book, Models by Mark Manson. I'm going to throw a thing here. It's legit. I really do like what he talks about. It's a good book, and there's a lot of overlap in what we're talking about right now and in the book, especially when it comes to vulnerability and owning your shit, basically is what it means.
Oh, yeah.
Or an aspect of it. I'll throw it in the chat there, too. Highly recommend it. We're going to do a video series on that in the future, but back to the slide here. Let's get back to the notes. So that was just ego mastery. Mm-hmm. Comfortable with having power, making decisions, taking leadership, and risks. Again, it's a very good component or an aspect of strong frame. Provoking excitement, joy. Actually, let's go back to that for a second. Comfortable with having power, making decisions, taking leadership, and risks. Comfortable with having power is something that most people are not used to, because generally they don't have power. So it's the same thing with guys that are insecure, and a girl comes along and gives them compliments, they don't know how to handle it. Similarly, the first time in the military when somebody says, "Thank you for your service," it's so weird. We don't know how to handle this.
You want to talk about the military? The first time somebody gets an officer promotion and they have to literally be responsible for other people, or it's the guys that have kids will recognize this immediately. When you look at your child for the first time and you recognize, like, look, I am fully and completely responsible and I have power over whether this thing lives or dies. And that's frightening for a lot of guys.
I thought you were going into a different direction with that, with having kids, and you got to, or when you get promoted, you got to treat the newbies.
Oh, no.
There's an element of that. When I was in NCO, the new ones that come right out of basic,
yeah,
they're like little kids. You treat them like they're not kids, they're adults, but the mental framework of you've got all this experience, they don't know shit. So they're like little kids at the kids table and you're the adult, and it's like this, there's that dynamic.
They're adults that know nothing, right?
Yeah. The second lieutenant situation. It's anyways. Yeah. So what we're talking about here with that having that power, getting comfortable with it, getting comfortable with compliments, getting comfortable with anything really.
There's one other thing I want to talk about here, because making decisions. If you're not capable of actually owning a decision and saying, you know what, if this fails, it's on me. Virtually none of this other frame construction stuff is gonna happen for you. If you don't decide and make a choice that you want to do X, you want to move your life in a specific direction, all of this is virtually pointless.
And I want to give you guys a really clear example of failing to make decisions. If you're asking your girlfriend or your wife, what do you want for dinner tonight? What do you want to eat? Where do you want to go? You fucked up. All right. Just throwing it out there right now. And we talked about this before in the other show. A really good example of that is giving people the illusion of choice. Not because you're trying to be a dick about it, but because you're shrinking down the options into things that you already approve of, and you're eliminating some of the analysis by paralysis, or the choice. What's that?
Oh, sorry. I just said definitely. I was just agreeing.
So yeah, if you narrow it down, say you want you yourself are interested in either Mexican, Italian, or seafood that night. Then when you say, what do you want to eat tonight? Italian, seafood, blah, blah, blah. The choices that you've pre-approved. This way, they have an opportunity to give feedback in that dynamic. You are showing leadership by giving them options, and everybody is better for it. It's not this wishy-washy, weak-willed, I don't know, what do you want? Where you're supplicating to them.
Yeah, I mean,
you can leadership role.
You can ask people for their preferences, but if you are comfortable making a decision and saying like, "Oh, you don't care," then we're having pizza. Like it's as simple as that, right? Yep. If you can't even make a decision about dinner, then how are you going to make a decision about your finances? How are you going to make a decision about your career?
Yeah. And finances, man. Oh God, that's my subject. I know. We'll talk about that after the show.
But getting back to Tesla options.
What's that?
We'll talk about Tesla options after the show.
Yeah.
So provoking excitement and joy in others.
Yeah, this is being able to steer the roller coaster of feels that we've talked about previously. If you can't provoke strong emotions and inspire people, then what are you doing? You're just a boring person.
Indeed. Let's see here. Pursuing their mission. This is your mission. What is your mission? What goals have you established to facilitate that mission? What is your purpose? We ask these questions to our private community members when we do our live coaching. That's the first 3 questions you need to be able to answer. And if not, that's your homework. So if you're watching and you haven't thought about this stuff, do the homework. Take some time and be introspective and think about what's your purpose in life, what's your mission, what's important to you as an individual. So, and how would you define yourself? That's the third question. Tell us join us on the discussion after the show. We can walk you through that process. So giving benevolently, living with abundance, and not keeping score in social interactions. Just really quick, not keeping score, write out a models. The link is over here in the chat. It's really good stuff. Highly recommend the book.
This goes to not having a covert contract with anybody. It's not just romantic interactions. Yep. But a lot of guys, I've heard this said before. I've been asked this 4 or 5 times on the Discord. Hey, Mike, how does this work? And the way that they describe it, ultimately the idea of points comes up. And I can't say this enough. There are no points. There are no points at all.
Right. I think that not keeping score just is a part of being really easy and nice to be around in social settings.
This is why. Well, absolutely.
Yeah. Which is, I consider it just like the difference between like alpha and beta behavior. Like an alpha guy, you can tell is just like carefree, doesn't care like who one-ups who or like what's going on. But it does have a basis in frame.
Mm-hmm.
It does, but when people don't keep score, it is so freeing in a sense that you don't have any of those covert contracts and expectations that you've got to deliver on. And I think this is why people surround themselves with those that don't have these aspects of their personality, where they're constantly with weak frame, I guess, just for lack of a better word. Because I'm thinking back to my own life where I've been around certain people who had an awesome personality, awesome, great life. They were like, the quote unquote alpha, but they had really strong frame. And what we're talking about, where they don't keep the points, they don't have the social contracts, they are giving benevolently with no expectations. People want to surround themselves, like you want to be in their presence. It's an awesome feeling being around those kinds of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this just looks like a list to me of just like stuff that alphas do.
Yeah.
All right, so we do have one question from the Peanut Gallery on Discord. Our supporters have a question. What is the difference between purpose and mission? And between those two, which one is harder to stick to? Thank you, Space. That's a good question.
That's a great question, although we are going to do a deep dive on mission, so I don't want to get too far off track with frame. But I think your mission kind of should be reflective of your purpose. I think, your purpose really doesn't involve mastery. The mission kind of should involve you mastering something and getting better at something. That's kind of the distinction I would make.
See, I would suggest that purpose and mission are kind of interchangeable. They're synonymous. It's how you define yourself is the other question. We would separate out. That's a good question, though.
Yeah, I think we'll explore this probably further in the deep dive on mission.
And then also we can pick this up after the show.
That's true. Yeah,
I love that question. That's a good one. Let's see here. I think we've done this one pretty well. Next slide.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, here's some examples of weak frame. I mean, to James's point, is like if you're doing all the other things on the other slide, well, you're probably already done most of this work. But if you're not, how do you know whether or not you have a strong frame or not? Well, first off, if you have to ask, you probably don't have one, right? But secondly, these are some things that you should recognize in yourself that you find yourself doing that are really, really negative patterns that you should stop immediately, because they probably don't serve you in the long run.
Yep. So, and just kind of run through the list really quick. Supplicative. Oh man, that is so bad. I'm trying to think of some examples, but nothing's jumping out at me. It's really tough to kind of put into words. What does a supplicative frame look like?
Yeah, if you're never standing up for your own preference of what you want, even on a basic thing, right? Let's say you want to go out to a restaurant with your friends, and all your friends want to go to one restaurant, and you just don't want to go. That's your choice, and they're going to make you feel bad for it. If you get caught up in that and allow them to actually, if you can't say, hey guys, I'm not interested in going this time, maybe I'll catch you next time, and you're going to feel that peer pressure, or you're going to even worse, you're going to supplicate and just say, all right, whatever you guys want, I really don't want to go, but I'm going to do it for you guys this time. If you find yourself doing that all the time, it's going to build resentment, is what it's going to do.
Yeah. And another thing about supplication, is asking. So if you're in a friend group, and instead of being hey, let's go here, instead you ask hey, do you can we go here? That's supplicating. Frame.
Yeah. Always asking permission from everybody, your friends, your parents, your girlfriend.
Yeah, asking questions is not necessarily a good idea. Making statements, way more impactful. Let's see.
Yeah, so make a choice, make a decision, and don't ask permission for the things that you want to do.
Speaking of things you want to do, outcome dependent. Mm-hmm. As soon as you can break free from this dependence, this outcome dependence, becoming outcome independent is so freeing, especially because that's what allows. I would say an abundance mentality will fuel outcome independence. If you can get to that stage of your life where whatever the thing is that you want, whether it be girls, a high income, whatever, as soon as you have that in spades, you'll suddenly realize you don't need it as much as you thought you did. And a good example of that is in the finance kind of world. Millionaire Next Door is a really good book where they kind of talk about this. or people when they're growing up where they want to have a lot of money because they can buy whatever this one fancy thing is. And as soon as they have the money, they realize they don't need that fancy thing after all. It loses the allure. It's the shiny object syndrome, where you want the forbidden fruit or this thing that's just out of reach, and then once it is in reach, you're just like, don't need it after all. There's that kind of aspect to it. I kind of went on a rant there a little bit, but you kind of get the idea. There's correlations to what we're talking about with the outcome dependency. Trying to, if you approach a girl, why are you approaching? Well, obviously you want to get her number and do things, probably horizontally at some point. But that's the end game, right?
But you shouldn't. That's not. You shouldn't invest yourself in that to the point where, look, if I get rejected, I'm just going to go home and I'm done for the night.
Yeah, you got to be out in. Yeah, the outcome dependency is it's poison for your mind.
Yeah. Here's the mindset is I'm going to talk to somebody and I hope it goes well. You can have a preference, but look, if it doesn't, I'm still going to have a good time no matter what. It's not going to be a big deal. That's the difference.
And on that note, it's the same thing with these Tinder dates everybody's going on nowadays, right? You don't go out on a Tinder date. You go out and you do your own thing. You invite her to come along or to go out, and then you'll break off from your friends, whatever it is you're already doing, and then go meet her.
That's exactly it.
Follow this structure. You guys will never have a wasted time or a wasted night in your lives.
And you won't stress out about the outcome. If you are doing something awesome and you invite somebody along, if they don't go, worst case scenario, you still get to do something awesome.
Yep. And there's no reason you can't meet other people while you're out doing it. Let's see. I'm looking at the show notes here. James, you had something to add?
Yeah, I just want to say the outcome dependence at the beginning stages, like when you're starting to try to find your frame and build your frame, outcome independence is more like just trying to what they said, just be happy doing what you're doing. But in order to build a really strong frame, you need to build competence, and you need to look at outcomes, external outcomes. So, God, I lost my train of thought. Fuck.
No, actually, you put this in the notes. Let me touch on this and hopefully this will spark something. So you talked about in your notes that when it comes to the important things in life, results matter. And if you're talking about validation of, for example, like I want to have a good career in the military, and you talk about I need to get through officer school, or I need to get through SEAL training, the outcome of whether or not you accomplish that, you should be actually dependent and care about that result.
Right. Okay. I got it.
Yeah.
So
when it tracks to your mission.
That's what I'm saying.
That outcome, that's different.
Right. So the difference being, like, a lot of people you'll just hear preach all over and over again that you are supposed to be the only one who tells your set, like, who determines whether or not something affects you, right?
Yeah, be your own judge. Yeah.
I think that's mostly, for a lot of things, is untrue, because the only thing that really matters in the end is whether you can actually make an impact in reality. So, like, yes, it's okay for if you're going out to have fun, fuck, I lost it again. No. I was so close. But the important thing is you shouldn't. The important thing to note with this is that you need to be really mindful of when you're ignoring indicators from externalities, or whether you're listening to them.
Oh yeah, no,
that's the main point.
You should be aware of external data points that matter, that track to your mission. Absolutely. And again, you could have a preference on the outcome, right? Like, you can care if you get fired from your job versus not getting fired from your job. Like, that's a bad outcome objectively, right? But I think the difference is, right, results should matter, but you should also be your own judge when it comes to the things that, deciding your own mission and deciding your own purpose of whether things track to that. Does that make sense?
Right. And even if, like, when you're going out, I remember reading these series of posts on the subreddit. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was a guy who, like, made a field report every day, and he numbered them, and every single day he would fail hard for a long time. And I kept telling him every day that, like, you have no SMV, you need to build your SMV. But he kept telling himself, like, he was being outcome independent to the point of delusion. And he
Mm,
wasn't
yeah.
actually making any progress. And he, I mean, he
and
was
I
going to
think-
fail
paralysis.
forever.
Yeah.
This I can kind of talk to a little bit, where guys will give up their mission in a sense as a way of freeing themselves of having any responsibility to achieving their goals. It's a form of self delusion.
It's a buffer. It's
It's
definitely
a buffer to protect their ego. Is all it is. You're right.
So we beat that one to death.
Well, it's important.
It is, and I think we could probably do a deep dive on outcome independence as well.
Yeah.
This is easily.
But getting back to the slides, back
Yeah.
to the show notes here, we got overreactive and neurotic is another example of weak frame. Overreactive is just getting butt hurt at anything that could go wrong in your life. Maybe it's rejection from a girl you liked, whatever. The neuroticism that comes with that is pretty self-evident. If for those that are not, can you kind of walk us through that a little bit there, Mike?
Yeah, neurosis is this kind of, you're not able to get through day-to-day, everyday stuff. It starts like, if you are worrying about like, why didn't she text me back? What is she doing right now? That type of overly reactive, I wonder if she's mad at me type of thing. That's a bad way to go through life. And it tracks to the fourth bullet, which is being emotionally dependent on others. If you find yourself feeling bad just because somebody else is angry and you're caught up in it, if you find yourself just feeling, down or depressed just because somebody else is, then that there's an unhealthy aspect to that of you can't self-validate or self-regulate your own emotions.
There's two things I wanted to add to that too. One is you'll quickly find yourself walking on eggshells. And then the other aspect of that is where you start supplicating to them to just make them happy.
Yeah.
And it's not a good place to be in either case.
A lot of these are interrelated in that way.
Yep. And also it kind of dovetails right into the next point. Soft personalities that shift and fill the container. Mm-hmm. So if you the hell is that? Something's going on over here. So yeah, soft personalities that shift and what we call fill the container. Women do this a lot too, just naturally because they want to when a guy with a strong frame who is demonstrating his leadership qualities, they let the guy lead. And if they're going in a positive direction, they'll just kind of like, okay, gonna go along for a ride. But guys, you can't really do that. Okay, there's a time and a place for it. If you're at work, then okay, yeah, you kind of gotta fill the mold yourself to the boss's frame, even though he may have soft frame. We talked about that before. But yeah, the boss is the boss. You gotta do what you gotta play the game. All right, but aside from those kinds of instances where you're not the employee, you are actually in charge of your own life. You need to have that strong frame. And when it's soft and you're accommodating to other people, it's a form of supplication. Supplication is unattractive and it comes off as needy. All right.
Yep.
And then also right here, it says right in the note, whomever has the stronger frame in a social interaction is whose frame you'll be interacting with in that context.
Yep. This is exactly what we talked about before the show of it's not a lot of people see this as a battle of wills or power dynamics, but really whatever it is natural gravitation toward the stronger frame in any social interaction. People will naturally step out of their own frame and adapt and flex to another person. And as Joe said, that's fine to do in one domain of your life or one or a couple domains of your life, because you are naturally going to adapt when you are getting a new job, or whether you are I can't think of a better example than that. But if somebody has power over you and the results matter, to James's point, then it's okay to maybe tone down your personality and be cognizant as a strategic move. Like, hey, I don't want to necessarily make any waves in this new job I'm in. Let me just go ahead and take inventory of what's going on, and I'll kind of give them the light easy version of myself to get used to people. Right? Does that make sense?
Indeed. Absolutely on point. Let's see. We kind of talked about this one a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable wielding power, making decisions, or making commitments.
If you're finding yourself with analysis paralysis, you're non-committal all the time. It's just weakness. It's absolute weakness.
Just pick a decision and own the decision and go forward with it. That's the
Yeah.
main thing.
And if it fails, learn how to be comfortable going, you know what? That was a bad call.
Yeah, own your shit. Acknowledge whenever you screw up and make a mistake. The important thing is when you make slippages, make mistakes, learn from them. So every failure is an opportunity to improve. I don't know if I just coined a phrase, but it's a good one to go by. I've lived by that rule my whole life.
I think that you made that up, yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
trademark it.
There you go. So low ego control, focused on image and appearance to others rather than substance. Yeah, it's just straightforward. Black and white, or blue and white in this case. It's very straightforward. If you can't control yourself and you're getting caught up in this this image of projecting a false image of who you think you should be versus who you really are, again, it's the first time you get a congruence check, you're going to fall apart. Or you might pass it in the short term, but long term, you will fail. And this is where a lot of guys, they come to this community. Back in the day when like the whole PUA thing was the rage, guys would start to get good at getting girls' interest. They would get into relationships, and then 6 months later, the girl's like, "This guy is not who I thought he was," and they boot him out.
The wheels would fall off. Yeah,
exactly. And then they come back 6 months later, completely brand new and green because they've been out of the game for 6 months, and they got to start this whole process needs to start over again. Don't do that. This is what we always talk about. You got to go full circle because the training wheels go on. You learn to ride the little bike. And eventually the training wheels come off because now you can actually ride the bike. So if you're going through this process, you can't just, take the wheels off and then coast down the hill and say, I did it. It doesn't work that way. So you actually got to build the skill, build the competence, build the confidence, and go through this process. Any other comments on this slide?
Yeah, just one last comment is notice that these are all things that are what women do. Don't be like a woman, guys. Like don't do that. It's not a good look.
So one last thing, we have a new comment from the Lion. To be the most congruent and have positive feedback. Move my mic a little bit closer here. Mm-hmm. So to be the most congruent and have positive feedback loop in your mental model, if you are overweight, should you tell yourself that you're still awesome because you're doing the work to get in shape, or should you be super congruent and say, I'm really in bad shape and I shouldn't tell myself I'm better than that? So this one I can actually talk to a little bit because this is kind of the process I'm going through right now of getting, and losing the weight and getting back in shape. It's a little bit of both. You got to acknowledge where you're at and kind of keep your ego in check. That you're not this foo-foo big badass bodybuilder, or you're not Brad Pitt in Fight Club ripped. As long as you're making improvements, recognize that you're making improvements. Your confidence will go up a little bit. You'll feel better about yourself, but don't blow smoke up your own ass because now you're working out that you're Billy Badass. It doesn't work that way. So just acknowledge reality of where you're at and just keep your ego in check.
Oh my Lord.
I know it's easier said than done, but
yeah. If I had $1 for every guy that walked into the gym just with way too much ego. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
he wouldn't have to do this.
Yeah, I wouldn't. You're right. No, I think recognizing and being comfortable with where you are at, and also acknowledging that that's not necessarily where you want to be in the future. I think that's a good headspace to be in.
Yes, acknowledging and recognizing faults and flaws is like the first step in improving them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be delusional. Like that's really the main thing. Like if you're telling yourself that you're awesome, you're not. It takes a lot of work. Yeah. It takes a lot of work to be excellent in anything.
But I mean, if you can't even do the man, what you refer stuff you refer to as like being a guy 101, to get your man card, you need to be able to, like, I don't know, do 20 push-ups or bench press your body weight, or what, there's those certain levels that guys talk about of like, you should be able to do those things. If you can't do that, just look yourself in the mirror and go, you know what, I'm weak. I don't need to beat myself up over it. I'm working on it. And I'm going to be better later on for having done the work. That's it.
I had a comment off of what James had just said, and I just lost it. Damn it!
Oh, I jumped in there. I'm sorry.
What were you saying there for a second? Just recap my memory, refresh my memory here. It was
I said to not be delusional.
I got it. The delusional part, where this is what we talked about in the earlier slide. Experience trumps affirmations.
Right.
You're blowing smoke up your ass. And this is kind of the same thing we just talked about. If you're faking your frame and a girl frame checks you, eventually the true self will shine through. And also with those the affirmations. Eventually the affirmations collapse when you meet reality that challenges them and says, okay, maybe I'm not really fit after all.
Yeah, like
in this context. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
if you think you're ripped and then you go up to some 9.5 and she just takes a shit right all over you, you know, it's maybe time to say, you know, maybe I need to do some work. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about delusional frames and positive and negative outcomes.
Mhm.
Getting cognizant.
Yeah, I think your affirmations cannot be that far off of reality, right? Like pick the positive things about yourself that are true, and tell yourself those things, right? Like,
There you
hey,
go.
I'm putting in the work.
There you go. I like
That's
that.
the positive one.
All right, moving on.
One last thing about outcome. No.
Okay. All right.
I'm just fucking with you.
Okay.
Jeez. I love it.
All right. So how this is? Yeah, I think that's actually my point right here.
This is you.
How does bad frame happen? The socialization. It starts when we're little kids. A lot of times it's just moms telling their little boys, "Oh, just be yourself. You'll find a girl one day who will like you for who you are," and all these, these niceties, these platitudes. That's what parents are supposed to tell their kids, not this. You're a fat ass. You need to go to the gym and lose some weight, kid. Maybe they had a dad who did give them some tough love, and they did go out there and they fix themselves up. And I think we see a lot of this in the real world right now with, 42% of all births to single mothers. These kids don't have dads in their lives being the disciplinarian, being the truth tellers, giving them the tough love that they used to have got just by default in nuclear families in generations past. That's a whole nother issue altogether. But anyways, it's socialization that is just from an early age. We get fed all kinds of dumb bullshit in our heads, whether it be parents telling us what they think telling us what they think they're supposed to tell us. This Disney-fied kind of version of media telling us like how relationships should be. Yeah, what's the old saying? Girls are all things nice and sugar and spice. Little boys are everything like and puppy dog tails or something like that. It's dumbass sayings. These things really, really warp our minds growing up. So you got to recognize where this indoctrination and socialization comes from. So, and then what ends up happening? We grow up, we realize all this stuff that we were taught as we were growing up as little kids isn't true. This is what brings most people to this entire community.
Well, some of us do. Some of us don't realize that, and it gets internalized.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it does get internalized as we're growing up.
Mm-hmm.
But usually there's this awakening phase where people start searching on the internet, what is the matrix? In this case, reality is not working. What I'm doing isn't working. There's got to be a better way. Lo and behold, there is. And that's where we come in. So it's the internalization of this indoctrination and socialization, and just it really corrupts the soul. And then you end up projecting this weak frame, not getting the results you were expecting to get that everybody told you would get by doing these certain things. It's a negative feedback loop if there ever was one.
Yeah. And then this stuff gets projected outward. It gets reinforced all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Because of what is it? Selection bias, or anyway, some type of cognitive bias where you're getting results and you're saying, oh, it's because I didn't do the things that a good beta does, and I should be doing more of that, right? And the ideas just reinforce themselves. And the truth is, it's just none of it's attractive. None of it's even constructive.
Yeah, exactly.
Things like validation seeking, for example, and we've beaten this to death, but all of those things are just completely unattractive. And it's what you can't even ask a woman if this stuff is actually attractive, because they can't they can't cognitively tell you like, yeah, this is totally attractive to me. The reality is you have to look at their actions and not their words. And that's why none of this stuff works.
All right. Any other comments or questions on this slide? Because Squid had a good question.
Yeah, let's do that.
I just saw it. Where did it go? There it is.
Would you say that a strong frame helps develop confidence, or confidence helps develop a strong frame, or are they equal?
Yeah.
I think James's point is really apt here of absolute belief and certainty is a great word. It's not necessarily confidence, but certainty is an essential part of a strong frame. And I think that kind of that should start to feed your beliefs. And I don't know that it works like a loop where it's reinforcing itself, but certainly it's possible to get a lot of positive mental models and positive feedback loops inside your own mind of, oh, you know what? I'm lifting weights and I'm getting stronger, and that's making me feel better about myself, which makes me want to go lift weights more. And that type of positive feedback loop will send you in a direction that will give you more confidence and build your frame. Does that make sense?
It does. I would just say straight up, confidence is an integral aspect of the frame that you exude.
Yeah.
Because you exude confidence. It's synonymous in a sense. It's a very large part of how others are going to perceive you. And perception is reality, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
for sure.
Confidence goes into confidence. Confidence goes into frame. Yeah, I guess that's a way of looking at it. This is why I focus so much on building confidence to develop confidence. Because that confidence, again, is exuded from you, and people will pick up on it. And again, that's part of your frame.
Mhm.
All right. Let's see. Next slide. Stages of frame development. I want to give credit to the guy who wrote this. Who was that?
It was Man in the World. Yeah, on Reddit. And we'll link all of these references that we have either in the Discord or in the description of the video when it gets posted. But Man in the World came up with this, and this is, for guys that get awakened, as opposed to the last slide where you're just internalizing this garbage that is, not serving most guys well. Phase 1, discovering your worldview.
Well, I want to just pause really quick.
Yeah.
Everything up to this point has been defining frame.
Yep.
Now we're going to and we just started how does frame get developed? Where does it come from? Stage 1 is define frame. Step 2 is, how to develop frame. And then step 3, we'll talk about a little bit later, how to improve it if you've got bad frame right now. So, moving on. So phase 1, you were saying, Mike?
Yeah. So discovering your worldview, this is where guys start to just peel back the onion of what they've believed for a long time, of what is actually attractive. And it's not really all that controversial to say, like, hey, masculine and feminine polarity is a thing. But that's a new idea for a lot of guys. And then phase 2, expressing your own frame, is when you start to, through your actions, through your beliefs that you express, through your emotions that you express, how do you communicate that frame, right? This is what a lot of guys in the misconceptions think of as, projecting frame. Well, they just want to skip right to phase 2, right? They just want to I'm gonna be an alpha, and alphas don't give a fuck about anything, so I'm just gonna express that. No, you have to go back to step 1 and do the introspection. Go read No More Mr. Nice Guy, do the breaking free exercises, and realize, what do I actually care about? What do I believe about myself? What do I believe is important in other people? What do I look for out of my relationships? That type of thing. And then phase 3 is projecting your frame onto the world. If you want to make an impact and do anything of significance that relates to your mission, to James's point, the results matter, the data points actually matter. And when you are projecting your frame out, which is just where kind of your frame meets others, it's really an opportunity for you to say, like, hey, look, I am a person worth knowing. I have an awesome lifestyle. Come get to know me. Come step into my worldview. My worldview is pretty great. And you can actually start influencing and mentoring people. And the influence piece, because you can't really control anybody else in the world, the best you could hope for is influencing other people, and that's phase 3.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much ties up that slide. I assume Joe went to the restroom.
Did he?
Yeah, I'm guessing he took a break here, which is pretty funny. Anything to add on the frame development?
Yeah, I mean, really, frame development can only come with time. So you have to pick things, like you have to pick you have to find a mental point of origin. I think is the step 1 of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to gain experiences from there, because you can only gain. I wrote this better in my notes. you can only gain. Where did I get that? Yeah, I mean, gaining competence only comes through experience, and that's why you have to get experiences to gain frame. And you have your mental point of origin, which can be really anything that is true, like 100% true, that is true, proven through positive external outcomes to go back to if you fail in other ways. And yeah, you just build it out from there. Takes a while. Takes a long time.
It's that crucible of life that we've talked about before. There's the experiences that are going to inform your worldview, and they're going to check you on whether or not you're where you think you're at in life.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think we'll talk about this a little bit later, but that scrutiny is going to help you discover and develop your worldview. And I think where a lot of guys go wrong in developing their frame is they just listen to other guys say like, oh, you should be like this, you should act like this. And we do this in the the RPU videos, but the reality is developing your own individual worldview is not as simple as listening to a bunch of chuckleheads like us on the internet telling you exactly what you should do. And that's why one of the things we say is like, take what is meaningful to you and just leave the rest. Like if it's working, it doesn't really matter if we said you should do it or not. The real key point here is you can't look at another guy and go, oh, you know what? I want to live my life like Dan Bilzerian. It's like, if every guy could do that, they would.
There he is again.
There's Dan. I keep going back to Dan Bilzerian every episode. But the reality is like that lifestyle is for one guy and for one guy only. And that works for him. It probably doesn't work for you because you're not capable of making $100 million. So that worldview of, oh, I'm completely capable of just sailing super yachts around the world and having a soft harem of 9 women that want to do whatever I want. That's not you, man. So get your worldview centered around what, and I'm not saying don't dream or don't have your own mission or don't pursue anything exciting. What I'm saying is get a worldview that works for you.
I will challenge this, that everybody has the capability. They just got to be willing to put in the work and have a little bit of luck, because some of that does factor in. So you can have, that's my
sure
on that.
Yeah, I know, I agree. I'm not defining the ceiling for people. I'm saying that like it's unreasonable if you are just some high school kid. It's unreasonable to expect within a couple years that you're going to be capable of living that lifestyle, right? Yeah. So don't set your expectations there, right? Don't make that the metric of your success. Your worldview should work for you in terms of, hey, am I a person that's pursuing what I want, which is I have these hobbies that I care about, or I have these goals in terms of weightlifting or my career milestones that I want to hit. Working on that stuff is more realistic.
Yeah, not everybody has the same ambition. That's the key distinction right there. Everybody can want to be in shape, but what you define as being in shape versus others could be different. They can have different meanings, different values. That's fine. I think we've covered this one to death. What's the next piece here? That was expressing your own, or was that discovering your worldview?
No, we covered all 3 of them.
Okay. Outcome independence. Oh boy, here we go. Prerequisites for having good frame. 1 is outcome independence. We're just going to do a really quick overview. 2 is abundance mentality. 3 is the self-discipline and worth ethic. And I believe there's another. Yeah, so this is it right here. So the outcome independence. For important things, the outcome generally matters.
Yep, we touched on this earlier.
Yeah, that's like, okay, yeah, you kind of need a job if you want to eat, okay? You got to play the game there.
Yeah, but and again, having a preference.
Hold on. He's got some.
Joe.
What happened?
James rolled down his window in his car as he's driving to McDonald's.
All right.
These things happen. All right, the joys of a live show. It happens.
Yeah.
What you were saying?
Yeah, I was saying this first one is actually James's note, but my note on here is have a plan A, have a plan B, and have a plan C, and it is totally possible to remain independent of the outcome and know that you're going to be fine no matter what happens, but have a preference.
So what is that? Plan Alpha, Plan Beta, Plan Chucklefuck?
Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and when you get to F, you're fucked.
There you go.
James, did you want to touch on this one? Because that first point is yours there.
Oh, should we talk about outcome independence? Some
Yeah,
more?
we should. We should absolutely deep dive on that.
I was gonna kind of let Joe just keep on going out of that one.
Got it. So, but you can't look. You cannot have a strong frame unless you have abundance mentality, and I think abundance mentality is even a prerequisite for outcome independence. Because
Oh, definitely.
what's the best way to build abundance is to actually have external validation in a healthy way. Let me give you an example, right? If you have 3 women that are hitting you up, 3, 4, 5 women that are hitting you up on the regular, that is, you actually have, objectively, you have abundance. You don't just believe you have it, you truly have it. And that is going to be the difference between you don't have to fake it, because you know that, you know what, if it doesn't work out with this one girl, I got 3 more that I can call.
Indeed. This is where I want to plug Jared Lawrence again. We did an interview with him a few weeks back, and his social mastery stuff is right on point with this. If you don't have abundance, he's the guy to go to talk to about that. And I don't think we get anything from him right now. It's just he's giving the community 20% off if you use the code TRP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't have to do it. Stick with us, whatever. I'm waving my hands. You can't see it. Yeah, so you guys can absolutely go to other experts to help kind of build the abundance in that sense. You don't have to, but he is one guy that I fully endorse. I know him. I've worked with him, and he's going to help us out with 20% off. So just something to think about right there. If you don't have abundance, there are people that can help you in that sense.
And then the last one, self-discipline and work ethic. These are all you guys' points.
Experience trumps affirmations. I am absolutely on point with that. That's, I think, one of mine, actually.
Yep.
And then competence breeds confidence. We've been harping on that all the like 6 months now. Yeah.
Yep.
I think this next one's James.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, part of having ultimate frame, or really the components of the ultimate frame, are competence and what's the other C word?
Certainty.
Certainty. Competence and certainty, which comes from external validation through positive outcomes. Healthy validation seeking versus unhealthy validation seeking.
This is where I draw the distinction of unhealthy validation seeking is just feeding your ego. Healthy validation seeking are those external data points and indicate that you are contributing something toward your mission, or you're developing experience toward your mission.
Right. You have to draw the line between what you're accepting as knowledge to improve yourself, and like doing something and then looking at other people to see if they like saw you, that sort of validation seeking.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I like this one too, because it talks about what we've been harping on for months now, where it's the competence through confidence, because you want that it's through the positive reactions you get from being competent. That positive reinforcement is what gives you your confidence. That's what develops it. So you need to get the positive reinforcement through that competency to build the confidence. It's 1 + 1 = 2. Competence plus positive reinforcement is what adds up to that quiet confidence. All right. So we're saying the same thing, I guess, at this point.
Yep.
Next slide.
Yeah.
Next slide. Frame elements. This is getting into the other. What was the guy's name?
Yeah, his name is Strategos Autocrator over on Reddit, and he has an incredible series on frame. And this is the tetrahedron, which is, for those that don't know what a tetrahedron is, it's a tripod, right? So there are 3
pyramid.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's a pyramid with 3 sides, and so the 3 faces, or the 3 kind of different elements that make up that tetrahedron, the pyramid, are 3: the intellectual, the emotional, and the physical.
I have a picture.
Yeah. This is what a tetrahedron looks like, kids. You didn't think you were going to be learning geometry on this broadcast, did you?
Let's see here.
Oh yeah, and this
Bam.
slide, yeah. Oh,
there we go.
Ooh.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't necessarily agree
Beautiful.
with the vision as the outcome.
Oh, I do.
It's the exuding of your frame is the way I would word it.
Yeah, but I think what that really is meant to mean is the coalescence of those 3 individual elements into one cohesive whole.
Yes. Yeah.
God, this guy had the perfect opportunity to use that Pink Floyd thing.
Oh yeah.
Where the light goes in and then the rainbow comes
prism?
out. Yeah, the prism.
Bam.
But
Yeah.
this slide, did you guys put this up because you thought that I said this? Stoicism is the only successful frame type.
Yeah, I put that on
And
there.
it's, I meant the opposite. I don't know if I wrote it wrong.
I think
But
so.
Stoicism is
Not the only one.
not the only successful frame type. Everyone
Gotcha.
likes to say that it is,
Mhm.
but I think it definitely is not, because it is the easiest frame type because it's easy. Like after a little bit of work, it's easy to like master your emotions and pretend to be stoic, right? So like something happens to you and you just like trying to throw some
non-reactivity.
amused mastery, yeah, like
Yep.
just like chuckle, and then like don't do anything, like
Just bury
and
it deep
things-
down. Never
everything's
talk
like
about it again.
yeah, like everything's happening around you, and all you're doing is sitting there just being, or like like trying to exude the stoic frame
Mhm.
when you may not be, and then eventually you become that because that's what you're practicing, and then you're like not interesting at all.
Yeah.
So I think stoicism is way overrated. It is good, and if you want to be a stoic, then great. But it is not the only successful frame type.
Yeah, you're right. So this is a classic case of Mike copied and pasted, and obviously a word didn't make it in. But the reality is like there are a ton of guys that are very gregarious, very outgoing, very kind of like the mayor game that we talked about before, where they've got a big circle of friends. Like they're not the person that's just this strong, resolute, kind of quiet, calm person.
Yeah.
It's
There are a
usually
lot.
the gregarious guys that are going to get all the attention on them. That's why they act out in that in that manner.
But
Yeah.
those
spotlight
guys
on.
can handle that attention, and they recognize that it's not an ego trip. They recognize it's an exchange, right? It's just an interaction with people.
Some of it's performative. I've seen this in
Yeah.
multiple respects. Some guys just like all the attention. Some guys like the attention because it gets them girls. Others have a deep-seated need for validation. I've seen this. I've actually worked with legit actors, and man, they are very the biggest prima donna and attention whores you've ever met.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but the ones I have, absolutely. So
I think there's a difference between needing attention and wanting attention and liking it. You know what I mean? Not necessarily. I mean, needing it is probably not as effective. But I don't want to jump too far into it. But I would say this as far as stoicism, you should have some of that in your toolbox for sure. Like I don't care if you're a gregarious, outgoing, kind of rock star guy. You should absolutely have the ability to reflect back on your mental models and validate yourself and go back through and take inventory of your emotions. You should be able to do that.
indeed. Next one here. So getting away from the stoicism for a moment, the emotional aspects of frame.
Mhm.
So expressing your emotions like a man. So you're not going to break down at the first sign of trouble. You're not going to be. So it kind of touches a little bit on the stoicism aspect. The example I gave was it happened to me in real life. Didn't even get into a fender bender. I bumped into a giant trash can with my old party bus, and I was just like, it happens. And that moment is actually what got one of the girls that was on the bus interested in me. Was my non-reactivity to it by controlling the emotions inside. I'm like, fuck, but I was able to control it and just kind of chill out. It's like, you know what? These things happen. No big deal. And moved on with the night because I didn't get flustered and I didn't get reactive and emotionally outbursts. None of that crap happened. In that sense, it was the stoicism, but it's also emotional control where you can say, all right, it happened. It's no big deal. Moving on. That's the controlled expression of emotion.
So this actually
being reactivity.
Yes, that's a great point. Yeah. This actually is the title of a post from Man in the World, and there's another reference to him out of this presentation that I pulled from. But a couple of things, we can link that article, but a couple of really gems from that article are things that we're talking about. Emotions are okay. Everybody should be comfortable with emotions. And if you remember from Hardisty's commandments, it is frolic in the surf of emotion. I love that saying. But one of the things you need to understand about expressing emotions is that you should do them secondarily. You should be expressing emotions secondarily to your mission and your goals and your reason and your values. Those should always come before and inform the emotions that you're expressing. And one of the other things he says in this article that's fantastic is a man expresses his emotions only in accordance with his desires, his values, and his mission in order to serve those. And rather than being a slave to his own emotions and being reactive to those.
That's a really, we got to, definitely got to look at that one. It's a good one.
Incredibly insightful. And I think we should link it.
And then the last one for this slide is the physical aspects of building frame. It's, remember, the tetrahedron.
Mm-hmm.
Physical, emotional, and then intellectual. And the physical, right here, you cannot fake it, okay? They're going to see you, unless they're blind, they're going to see you, and it's just you. Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, you can go and you can get some cosmetic surgery done here or there, but it's not going to fix everything. There's no magic pill that's going to fix your physical issues. If you're grossly overweight, lose a lot of then get in shape, lose the body fat. If you're super scrawny, way underweight, put on some mass, eat a lot of food, hit the gym, hit the iron. Like right here, the iron doesn't lie. We're doing the challenge right now over on Discord, and we're starting to see some people's changes a little bit. I'm seeing my own. Mm-hmm. And it's awesome that we're challenging guys to improve themselves in both respects. But anyways, yeah. You want to take this one, Mike?
The physical piece? No, I think there's a reason that we say lift first. The first thing you should be doing is lifting, because what it does is it starts to breed that competence. If you feel better and more comfortable about moving the iron up and down every day, and you're putting in that, we talked about the prerequisites, you're putting in the discipline and the work ethic to say, you know what, I'm going to go to the gym every day, then that starts to create these patterns of, you know what, hey, at least I'm good at one thing. At least I'm good at sticking to, at least I can improve my bench press, right? I have full control over that. And that gives you this kind of internal confidence. And then eventually you lift enough to the point where you go, you know what? I'm not really intimidated physically by other guys anymore.
Well, there's another aspect to this too. It goes back to the feedback loop. As soon as you start losing a lot of weight, or you start putting on a lot of muscle, or both, you're going to see the way people will treat you changes.
People will compliment you. People will notice.
There's all of that. You're going to start getting different reactions from women. Mm-hmm. And when you start getting that, it's like, it's going to be earth shattering if you are on one end of the spectrum or the other. It's so, I use this word too much. It's empowering.
Striking. It's
striking. There you go. That's a good word for it. It's striking the difference that you're going to get if you get down to a healthy body composition, or are actually a bit better than the average healthy body composition. So if you start cracking into that top 20%, dude, you are going to see some massive changes. When I had, was like 18-inch arms at one point, and I was fit, dude, it was like girls will reach out and touch you. Like, you're not supposed to, that's not what polite things. You don't reach out and touch people and stroke their arms.
But they will.
Guys can't, those are great boobs, and they just stroke their boobs. You can't do that, all right? But girls get away with being way more physical, and they are going to be way more physical with you when you are physically attractive. You can be looking like a goofy mofo, but if you're built, they're still going to do it.
Yeah, dude. This is where
I've seen some goofy looking dude, but because they were built, the women just reacted to them in a certain way.
That's the thing. This is why I hate the whole like MGTOW black pill thing. It's like, guys, if you get some muscles, which is under everybody's control, unless you're like a quadriplegic, which that's a different use case, right? Or that's a different circumstance. But most guys, you can go out and get muscles, and that solves 75% of your problems right there. So the physical piece is definitely in your control. And this is not about, I want to make the point that this is about strength. This is not about, do you have high cheekbones and look like a model?
And also, we talked about this before the show. For guys that are shorter like me, I'm not tall at all. I had one of the tallest relatives in Sicilian history. We talked about that before one night, but for whatever reason, it just didn't trickle down on my side. All my cousins are all like 6 feet tall. Okay, but for me, I'm like the runt of the litter, right? But I can't get taller. But you know what I can do? I can get wider. So I can get those.
So he eats a lot.
Arms. I can get the big shoulders. I can get the V taper.
You can get 18-inch arms. That's in your control.
So you can get the tree trunks for legs. You can do these things if you do the work. All right. It doesn't matter if you're a hard gainer or not. most people don't come anywhere close to maxing out their full potential, to tapping their full potential.
Get those glute gains, man. You do some squats.
There's so much you can do when it comes to the physicality. And again, this is going to create that positive feedback loop that we've talked about before that is going to massively improve your frame because it's going to improve your confidence. I think we've kind of done this one to death.
Mhm.
All right, moving on. Wait, that's frame elements? This is frame building. So, which is actually some kind of nice segue too with the lifting.
Yeah. So this is how do you go about building your frame up? These are all examples of how to go ahead and do that. And I put references in here for literally where to go to read this stuff. This is most of this is sidebar stuff, but we can go through these one at a time.
Well, some of these we're going to cover in future episodes as well.
Yep.
So if we skip over something and we just kind of and we're moving on, let us know if you want it. But yeah, just be advised, a lot of this we're going to have complete episodes that we can another deep dive.
Mhm.
Frame tests, shit tests, comfort tests, whatever you want to call them, congruence tests. That is a future episode we have got spec'd out. It's coming. All right.
We're also going to do a deep dive on mission as well. And I think we should touch on purpose as a part of that.
Yeah. Mission, purpose, and how that people define themselves.
I said before, I approach things from the Married Red Pill side of things. And the first, one of the first rules we have on MRP is, just shut the F up, right? Is communicate with purpose and, stop stepping on your own dick. I really, honestly, like most of the stuff that you say is going to be unattractive when you're starting out and you don't have a strong frame. So just eliminate the chances of you making an unforced error is what this is about. Just shut the fuck up.
Seriously.
Secondly, Joe, you want to take this one? This is something you harp on a lot.
All right. Overcome your fears and move outside of your comfort zone. Okay. Overcome your fears. Move outside of your comfort zone. I'm going to go ahead and full screen this.
Mhm.
Get outside of your comfort zone. So think of yourself as being in a bubble. All right. And there's this edge of the bubble of what's socially acceptable in society, whether it be cold approaching girls or what have you. And you're in your little comfort zone. All right. I want you to take one big step forward out of that comfort zone, because 9 times out of 10, you're still a half mile away from what's actually socially acceptable, where that boundary is. So to get out of your comfort zone, take that big step and then take another big step, because now you're starting to get close from a metaphor perspective. Most guys play it way too safe. They play it too close to the chest. They're afraid of being judged. Their fear of rejection. Maybe it's approach anxiety. There's all these negative kind of emotions kind of keeping guys in their own little bubble, in their head. So to get out of that, you just got to take those big, giant leaps out of your comfort zone. And if you want a way to do this kind of like in a safe, I hate to say safe space, but get away from your local area, go drive to the next town or the next county over, maybe go for a road trip for the weekend, take a friend with you, and go clubbing. If your intention is to learn how to approach girls, you don't want to getting back to your social circle, do it on your own. Go out, try new things, get out of your comfort zone where you have no fear of any social disgrace following you back home.
Yeah, there's going to be few repercussions if you're on vacation or if you're on a business trip.
And there's an actual term for this. It's called vacation mentality, where people are way more gregarious, way more risk-taking when they're on vacation than they are when they're normally at home. And that can apply to what we're talking about right now with just general taking risks. Women are way more sexually adventurous when they're on vacation. I don't know why people don't know this, but it's a thing. And it's an actual psychological term. It's called vacation mentality.
Yep. I would say this dovetails really well into the third one, which is this is part of my own personal mission, is taking adversity and failure and using that as an opportunity for growth. But one of the things from the Discord that was posted, I love this saying, is be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Put yourself in situations that are going to challenge you, and understand that when you take a risk, that there is a potential for you to fail. There is a potential for you to have some adverse consequences, and that ultimately is going to be a big lesson for you in the long run. And you should always take that as an opportunity for growth, right? I think the metric there is, did anybody go to jail? Did you kill anyone? If not, it's probably a growth opportunity, right?
James, you have anything to add there, buddy?
Nope. That's good. That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I can't really speak to any of this because I built Frame in a completely different way. I just did it. I just went out and I did stuff and I looked at it and see what it did positively and negatively, and then I changed my behavior on that. And I don't know. That's just like, it's simple, but it's simple to say, hard to do.
That's totally the next one, is learning the tactics on how to pass shit tests. Like, put this stuff to work. Learn the basics. Like, don't defend, explain, excuse, and rationalize.
Yeah.
Right. And then I always harp on, when I say no, I feel guilty, but like, fogging, shut the fuck up. Right. Negative inquiry, that type of thing. You can use those tools. And that probably comes a little more naturally to you, James, than others. But this is, if you are absolutely clueless and you need the textbook, it's on the sidebar. Just read the sidebar, go out, to James's point, implement it, see what works well for you, see what doesn't, and use that, and then come back and post about it.
So the point above, just really quick, overcoming your fears, recognizing adversity and failure as an opportunity for growth. Nietzsche has a good quote on this. On the mountains of truth, you can never climb in vain. Either you will reach a point higher up today, or you'll be training your powers so that you'll be able to climb higher tomorrow. This is that concept of the silver lining of mistakes and failures. It's, if you learn from them, then it's not a total loss. You're still improving yourself.
Yeah, there's a Mark Twain quote that I think I posted on the show prep, which was, experience is what you get when you were trying to get something else.
So true.
I think another one of these is,
I like that,
this self-introspection piece, and that's like the 5th and 8th bullet here. They kind of go together, was take an inventory of your own weaknesses and coming up with a plan to address those. And ultimately, your weaknesses are probably going to involve, what James talked about, which is going out and interacting with women. This is sexual strategy, after all. There's a big part of this. So understand, your own worldview of how comfortable are you with the physical component of your frame, which should include sexuality. How comfortable are you with your own sexuality? Get to know yourself, answer those important questions, and then literally go out and address those, right? Become more comfortable expressing your sexuality or escalating sexually with a woman. And
you mentioned the No More Mr. Nice Guy breaking free exercises. For those that are on our private community over on Discord, go all the way down to the bottom. We've got a whole section devoted just to that book. All the breaking free activities, we've kind of gone through them. And also, Ryan Stone did an entire video series on this. And at some point, we're going to do our own take on that. Yeah, but the material's there. Go read it. I think the book is in the books chapter, in the
books channel.
Pinned messages. It's in the books channel. In one of the pinned messages, there's a link to it. I highly recommend it. I just went through the audiobook myself about a week or two ago. It's good stuff. If people that don't know this, covert contracts originates from that.
Oh,
so I'll keep talking about that. That phrase, that term, is from No More Mr. Nice Guy, the covert contracts.
I talked about approaching women and being comfortable with your sexuality. The last bullet is recognizing that is just a potential experience rather than being needy and absolutely having your mind dead set on needing sex and validation out of that interaction. That's not a good look, and it's unattractive. So, again, if you're going out and you're trying to meet women, just look for that connection and hope for the best, but recognize that that may or may not happen, and don't pin your hopes and dreams on that, guys.
Which bullet was this? You lost me there for
This is the last one. Approaching. I'm jumping around a little bit.
Oh, that's what got me.
Yep. Approaching women is a potential experience. This is if you go out and you are trying to get a particular result, and it's, did I have sex at the end of the night or not? It's not a great metric, right? It's not a real constructive metric. It's that thing we talked about earlier on in the live stream about go plan to have an awesome time no matter what happens. Yep. And that way, that's the worst case scenario. If you had sex, great. That's an awesome time too. But at the very least, make sure that you're gonna, no matter what happens, have a good time at the end of the night.
I think we may have missed one or two here. Learn how
Yeah.
to reset every day and choose to be positive. The Feeling Good Handbook. I don't think I've actually seen that one myself.
That was one that Johnny Apocalypse over on MRP recommended to me personally, and I've started it. It's a good book, and it's super helpful if you are going through the anger stage of a lot of guys that aren't in LTRs go through this anger stage of like, I'm not having a lot of success. I've put a lot of effort into this, and I'm just flaming out. Like, how do you reset and get your mind right? This is a good book to help with that.
It sounds also, I would argue. Not argue, that's not the right word. I would suspect that a lot of that is they're doing all this work, they're supplicating, they're not getting the sex they want, and then they're getting butthurt about it, and it's destroying the relationships. It goes back to the covert contracts again.
Yep.
So,
and then self introspection. I think we touched on answering the important questions, getting to know yourself, the stoicism thing, and let me just as a reminder here, because we got to correct the show notes. Stoicism is not the only type of frame you can have, or it's not the end all be all. I think it's super helpful, but your frame doesn't have to be all about stoicism.
Yep. Learn how to accept that which you cannot control. Again, goes back to the example that I give is height. I can't get taller, but there's other things I can do. I can get wider. I can become more confident by developing confidence. I can build my status up by, starting a business or following the 3 pillars of status, what you do, what you have, and so forth. So yeah, if you can't change it, why fret about it?
Yep. And When I Say No, I Feel Guilty is a great book for, giving yourself permission to not care about something and recognizing when you can't control something, it's not really all that important to care about.
I think we should add that to the list of books to go over in the future. I'm liking I haven't actually read that one. I don't believe.
Oh,
maybe that's one to go through.
Fantastic.
Do a chapter by chapter breakdown.
Actually, Ryan Stone just did one.
He beat us to the punch.
He just did a video series on. He probably watches this and listens to us when we say. This is what I think happens is if you're watching this, I've picked up on your behavior, which is you hear me say like, oh, we should absolutely go through and talk about this stuff, and he's going, no, I can't let these guys do this. I can't let these idiots go through this content because they don't know it as well as I do. So, Ryan, if you're watching, respect, love the content. But yeah, head over to his channel, watch the When I Say No, I Feel Guilty videos, buy the book. It'll be one of the best $10 you ever spent.
I'll have to add a separate category for that then and throw the build them a new playlist. So, and we do have a playlist over on our channel right here at home, and it's the No More Mr. Nice Guy playlist, and it's actually all of his videos. So who knew you could do that with YouTube? It's pretty cool. I think this is the end of this slide. Is there any last things we may have missed?
No, this is it. We got to get to the questions, man. We got a ton of them.
All right. Well, in that case, let's go back up to the top. I don't see any other comments over on Discord. Guys, now is your chance. If you've got comments, questions, concerns, anything,
stock tips.
Get them out there. You want us to talk about outcome independence for another half an hour?
Yeah. So again, Red Squill, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. You are number one. Head on over to Discord if you have not yet. We will get you guys set up as a Patreon supporter. You're not really a Patreon, as a supporter. We'll change it, okay?
Yes.
Come on over. We'll bring you into the family. We do live. We do live streams like this. We also put down our own commentary tracks to certain films that are relevant to the community, and you're welcome to take part of that. Also, we do a monthly private call with just me and Mike and sometimes James when he's around. And we do this, like I said, usually once a month just for our supporters. And then for our supporters, always full access to the server. You still got to kind of cut your teeth a little bit, but we'll work with you. All right. So let's see. Yeah, they couldn't hear you earlier on, Mike. Looks like Kyle got you squared away.
Sorry about that.
I am not living in a penthouse. Actually, I am. Now I think about it. I forgot I moved. Yeah, what you see in the background isn't where I live, but one of these days I will do some live streams in the other room where you'll see I am. It's a pretty cool place. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I just realized that there's way too many sofas in your background picture anyway for it to be realistic.
You're not an alpha unless you have
There's
4
like
sofas.
yeah, there's like 6, 7 sofas in there.
Now, if you saw the links that I'm looking, so in the future, we're thinking maybe a year from now when I move, buying a large, not a mansion, maybe a McMansion, and then having some guys move in as our own little Project Hollywood.
A
But what
mini
I'll-
mansion. Yeah.
McMansion, yeah. So we'll do some. That's seriously what I'm considering. So bring in a few folks, take some rent, and because we found out that, well, I found out the other day, in order to do the fraternity the way we want to do it, you actually have to own property. I didn't know that to qualify for one of the charity 501c shred outs. So
Yeah.
if we can't do that version, maybe we'll do an 8 or maybe we'll do a 10. I think it was 10. 8's the one where you got to supply everybody with insurance. We can't
You
do that.
boneheads are not coming to my house. I know that.
So, but in the future, that's something we were looking at. But yeah, so maybe one day what you see in the background will become real. Moving on, we got questions here. Arnold Cash, hey, back at you. So he had a question. Once in high school reunion party, a group of girls who were his classmates looked at him, got impressed that he changed his looks, and initiated the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, I had a bunch of eyes at me, wanting me to give a good answer. My responses weren't so good, and they kind of turned off. Is this lack of frame? Is this lack of good frame, being able to hook people in? This sounds like you need to improve your communication skills, your storytelling skills, your ability to hold court. And if you haven't seen the video, go back and watch the one we did on the Gift of Gab. And then also come over to the community. We can kind of talk about that and do a follow-up sometime.
Yeah, I would say that here's my guess, because there's not a lot to go on. But if your responses weren't so good, I'm just guessing that this is probably coming from a place of a certain amount of insecurity. If you were secure with yourself, then you would just say like, yeah, I changed my looks. I updated my wardrobe. Thanks for noticing. Or I've been working out. Thanks for noticing. It's just a compliment. And if you handle that really poorly, guys, there's a post on MRP about this. It's how to handle compliments. Just say thank you. Right. And they're giving you an opportunity to talk about yourself for a second. Do that. And then just hit the ball back. Turn the conversation back around on them. Is like, hey, what about you? You guys been working out very much? Or
think of it as a pressure flip from the shit test stuff. It's I don't want to dive into that too much, but what Mike was saying is absolutely true. You've got to be comfortable in your own skin, accepting compliments.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of guys, for whatever reason, just are not comfortable with that
because they don't get a lot of them.
Well, that is true. What was the saying? Many guys will misinterpret women just being nice for interest.
Yeah,
because they're so starved for attention like that. So, anyway,
yes, I don't think that's a lack of frame in and of itself. Like this guy may have frame problems, he may not have frame problems, but I don't think that's an example of lack of frame. If it was insecurity that I'm just guessing on, then maybe there's something to that, and maybe your frame could be stronger.
It could be. It can always be stronger.
Most guys, speculating.
If you're coming to this community, odds are yes, you can make some improvements. You can stand to improve. See, Plumber, welcome. It's good to see you, dude.
Yeah, hey to you.
Yep. See, Small Wall. Yes, it is a good book. I agree.
That's Models that you're talking about, Attracting Women Through Honesty. And by the way, let me just plug Mark Manson's blog. It's incredible. If you want to space, this goes to your question over the Discord about purpose versus mission. If you want to sort through those things, I highly recommend Mark Manson's blog. The best stuff that he offers is actually free, and he is the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which is a great book in and of itself. So
I'm
highly recommend
that right now.
Absolutely, highly recommend his stuff.
I don't know if I would agree that it's as good as Models, but it is good. I would start with Models and then go with The Subtle Art, and maybe
I haven't read Models, so yeah, that may be true. It might be better.
It's a good one. I'm
not trying to attract women at the moment. I'm married.
So Arnold, yes, we are glad you caught us too. Folks, I want to pop over to Discord. So Squid said, "What are some of the other philosophies besides Stoicism that are good examples of frame?" James, this one is you made the point that it's not the only one. Mm-hmm. What do you got in mind?
What's the question?
Other philosophies besides Stoicism that are good examples of frame.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Stoicism is just like, I would say that it's not really true to the philosophy of Stoicism, although I'm not really educated much on Stoicism other than it's like non-reactivity as a
No, it's not quite
as
just
a
that,
basis.
but
I
yeah.
know I'm not
Yeah.
but like that's just how most people really express it. I don't know. There's like definitely there's true Stoics who are like who know about it, and I don't know. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but what I'm saying is like you can have any emotional basis of your frame as long as it's congruent all the way through. So you can be like
Yes.
you can be an angry guy if you want. You can be like an emotional guy, a gregarious guy, even a sensitive guy. But as long as you keep like those bases of frame where you're competent and certain,
Yep.
you can have any emotional basis that you want. You have to have some level of non-reactivity. For example, like not like rising to goads is important. Just some other like things that it does show lower value if you react to.
This is where the
But
Amuse Mastery kind of comes into play, and will save you
yeah,
from that. Yeah.
Let me give you
But-
an example here of one other philosophy that's it's kind of the rock star philosophy, right? Is that there's the word stoic, the idea of stoicism comes from the word stoic, which is exactly what you described as non-reactive and strong, resolute, that kind of emotion. On the other side of the spectrum, you've got like David Lee Roth and Motley Crue and all these guys that are like super high status because they were famous. They were absolutely the most famous guys of their time, but they're completely wild. They're you're just absolutely insane. You wouldn't call them resolute or even stable. They're wild. They're absolutely, risk takers. They're aggressive and they're bold. And that can be the underpinnings of a frame as long as you are completely congruent to that. Right.
Yeah. So I want to add to this as well. It doesn't really speak to the philosophy, but it does speak to the archetypes. It's the book, Robert Greene's Art of Seduction. If you can figure out which one kind of tracks to you as an individual, that'll give you a head start, a big head start on trying to modeling your own, I don't want to say your frame, but your presentation. Again, perception is reality. So when they see you, if you can figure out which one kind of tracks to you naturally and then kind of mold your presentation to fit that archetype, I think that'll give you a good heads up as far as how, oh, Jesus, got a cat.
Some of those are like the natural, the charismatic, the star, there's a couple, I forget all of them. The dandy. There's a couple examples of those archetypes out of the archetype.
Dandy is the one that really comes to mind. If you guys remember the PUA Meow.
That's what I think of you as. You think of Joe, and I think dandy.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. That's a good question, though.
We actually have another good question over here. It was nope, wait, that was it.
Yeah.
19 was saying he'll have to rewatch the live stream more than once because he's got a bunch of stuff to internalize. Oh, yes. The Lion, he's posting.
Go back and rewatch this stuff over and over and over, and then hit us with questions about it.
So Eric Madness had a thing here. DW, I get what you meant there, Joe.
Don't worry, I got what you meant. Perfect.
I was going to say, what does DW mean? Okay, don't worry, I got you.
That's what the kids are saying nowadays.
I read you. The Lion, can you list the books mentioned in the episode somewhere? Yes, go to the books channel on the Discord and click the pinned messages. It's the top right there, the little pin. Like almost all of these books are in there.
Yeah,
the ones that are not in the list, we will add tonight. There's been a few that kind of were off my radar that Mike put me onto. I got to add to that list.
I'll absolutely put a summary together, and I will include all of the links to the Reddit posts that I referred to in the notes.
Yeah, for those that are watching on YouTube, I will update the description tonight after the show. I got a 25-pound cat. He wants to say hi.
Boom.
Yeah.
All right, next question I think is Flip River. Correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like girls should test in order to get insight into where you are on the social dominance hierarchy, which back in caveman days would be directly related to your value and resources. Yes, that's part of it. There's a lot of different reasons they can shit test, not only to figure out your status in terms of your social hierarchy, but they also test to see if you will supplicate to them. That's a compliance test. They will also test your frame to see if they know something about your worldview, they will test it to make sure that you are congruent to that. and that you're not going to just completely throw your whole mission out the window just for some pussy. That's not a good look. And so they will test you on that. What do we got? A little Star Wars going on here?
Yep. So let's see here. Pavi was asking, who the fuck is the middle guy?
Great photo, by the way. Oh, the guy at the bottom without a picture sounds certain in his speech. Thank you. Who the F is the middle guy? Well, James is just trying to get his notes together, man. Cut him a little slack.
Wait, who said that?
Pavi.
Where does he live?
Pavi, also, you were on the dude. You got to come back to the channel. We the challenge is still going. We need you back on there so we can get you in there. Get your updates. All right.
Jump back on there.
So the Discord server is in the description. Click the link. Come on over. Do your intro, and we'll get you set up with your old access rights. All right.
Yeah, you didn't get banned. The server got zapped, and we had to recreate it. Is the short?
It's a long story. So if you are watching, I should have front loaded this at the beginning of the show. Yes, if you were on the old Discord, come on back. We got you. Yeah, we'll hook you up. REJ. This guy, I think he's talking about you, James. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see.
Hey, I mean, you can laugh, but it's your loss.
It's legal out there, right?
Oh, that's right.
And hey,
yeah.
So
I can't say nothing then.
Arnold Cash, if you are the kind of guy who spent the whole life beating around the bush and not getting action, be honest and direct. Being honest and direct is good for a change. Yeah, I mean, do this stuff incrementally. Do exactly what James said, which is you don't have to read 9,000 books or go through 19 hours of YouTube commentary from us. Like, get a couple of the basics down about how to pass shit tests, how to actually start lifting, start keeping your mouth shut, that sort of thing, and just go out and test and see what works better.
Yep. So we talked about earlier too, just shut the F up. Less is more sometimes, a lot of times. A lot of guys are just bad storytellers. They're not good at holding court. It's a case of let them figure out why they won't date or hook up with you. Don't give them reasons. So the less you say, the less chances you have of putting your foot in your mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. Arnold also says you get rejected faster and save time. Again, that's a Mark Manson thing with polarizing style of game. Brad P. also, the blow me or blow me out kind of mentality. So just be polarizing. Be true to yourself. Also be kind of cognizant of the situation you're in. You can't just kick the door open at the office and, hey, I'm here, everybody. Yeah, you might get thrown out of the building if you do something like that. But if you're in a club setting or a bar and you're a little bit more gregarious than you normally would be, or you're just just be present in the moment, get out of your head, give yourself permission to have fun. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, those are all true things.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Next.
Small wall.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
One thing that really stuck with me and kind of relates to Frame was from Models. I don't wonder if she will like me, but rather I wonder if I will like her.
That's a hell of a reframe, and I love it. And again, it comes back to, you get that when you have abundance mentality. Now, you can make that change also, like on the fly. If you start thinking about it, like you don't worry about whether or not the girl's going to like you. You're going to think about, I wonder if I'm going to like her. That reframe can also give you a sense of abundance mentality. Or at least it'll divorce you from being outcome dependent. Let's see here. T.O. I have a question. How do you deal with women who are scared about coronavirus and don't really want to do anything physical? Okay, so this is one of those things where it's valid that some are going to be kind of skittish about it. Also, if they really like you and they really want to get with you and meet up, they're going to find a way. All right. So, but you got to kind of play both ends. So some, no matter what you do, they're not going to be interested. Some, you don't have to do much. They're already interested. All you got to do is show up. Most are going to be somewhere in between.
Yeah, bro. Mask is not going to stop them if they want to bone you.
Dude,
Yep.
I legit lined up 3 last weekend, and they didn't say anything about coronavirus. So I can tell you for sure that it's your SMV and your abundance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not the real objection.
I can't believe I believed that crap.
He's talking about all the beta socialization that we went over. Yeah. I'm sorry you believe that stuff too, man. But
Yeah.
all of us were there at some point.
Yeah. So Tio realized that a girl will overlook any of that for the right guy that can give her the feels and bring out the primal and be that guy.
Bang.
Knocked it out of the park. Got it. It's Tio. It's weird. I was with a girl and she told me before she came over that no funny business can go on. And I tried escalating the day before. She's super scared of the virus and is pretty serious about it. And
No
that's fine.
I just want you to come over and chat with me.
Right. And this is where, so there's two modes of thought. 80% of the time, it's already, they've already envisioned what's going to happen. It's already on their brain. So 80% of the time when they say we're not having sex tonight, it means they've already mentally pictured it happening and are prepared for it. The other 20% of the time, I'm just making the 80-20%, just kind of following the Pareto principle a little bit.
Mhm.
But the other 20% of the time, it's because they don't want to. Something may have happened. And in this case, it might be that they're so worried about the virus that that's really what they mean. It doesn't mean that it can't happen if you try and escalate in a smooth and concise manner. What is Harmon? Acta non verba. That's some progress. Pull back and let her come to you. Yeah. So if you escalate, if you put the moves on, you've made your intentions known, and they don't leave. Or in this case, she comes over for a second date.
Mhm.
You know why she's coming over. You've put all this stuff out there. She's okay with it. She's in your frame, which is really relevant to this show. So, yeah, think about
Actions, not words.
Exactly.
If you're getting IOIs and she's saying, no, I really can't, like, buddy, if she's still, hanging on to you or touching you or whatever it is, like, that's kind of an indicator.
So Tio, yeah, it was good. A lot of Kino teasing, slapped the butt, etc. Tried to test it, but she was pretty serious about it. So just hard because the virus is no joke. So she could be in the one that's just really serious. If they say
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. If there's a lot of Kino and she's within, she's standing right next to you, she's touching you, she's breathing into your mouth virtually. Like, that's not the real objection, man. I can tell you right now.
You're getting an LMR because you don't have her enough. There's not enough interest, not enough comfort, not enough interest. We've been over this.
I mean, if you're close enough to do butt slapping,
yeah,
come on.
If she's over at your place, yeah, that's either that or she is just super scared and just not making any sense.
I think maybe she thinks it's actually transmitted sexually.
It maybe it can be, but that's not the. Yeah, it's
maybe this broad is just stupid.
There's some silliness going on. Yeah.
Women can be irrational for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's not a
healthy. In this case, it sounds like either it's a real irrational, it's a real irrational fear, or she's playing games with you. Yeah. Let's see. I don't want to jump any boundaries like that.
Oh,
okay. So now we see where this is going.
You're such a nice guy.
Yeah, that's the problem. You're not being aggressive, not assertive enough. That's the word, assertive. You're not being assertive enough. You've tried to make your play. She shot you down, but she stayed in the game. So you just need to build more comfort, make her more interested, and ping those emotions.
You are supplicating your need for sex to some assumed boundary that you think she has. Let her assert her own boundaries. She's a big girl. If she doesn't want you to have sex with her, she wouldn't be entertaining a butt slap, or I'm guessing if there's some Kino, you guys are probably making out or whatever it is. She's not going to do that if she's not interested in you.
Yeah, they're not going to be in that position one-on-one like that in private in an intimate situation, allowing escalation and then say, "Oh no, that's the line."
If she doesn't want to take her clothes off, then she doesn't take her clothes off. But let her make that decision. She's a big girl.
Yes. If you escalate, find out where the boundaries are, and if there is a hard no, back away, let things chill for a while, and then try again.
Yeah, don't sweat it.
2 steps forward, 1 step back. So maybe she's just one of those types that needs to be ramped up and ready to go. And it gets into the what was the book?
Yeah, go read Sex God Method.
My mind was on the love languages book.
Oh,
the
God.
5 love languages.
Don't
Only
start.
one of those it talks to men, and that's the physical one. But for the other ones, there's some stuff to take away from that. And a lot of women won't get interested in sex until they're already in the act of having sex. It blows my mind when I learned that. So for them, it's just you've got to get them primed in a certain way. and she might be one of those types. That's really outside the scope of this discussion, though.
Yeah.
Let's
All
see,
right.
where were we at here? Boundaries. Flip River. Totally agree on the not keeping score thing. For a while last year, I was constantly aware of who was an alpha beta in an interaction, and it automatically made me act beta. Had to stop thinking about it. That's not what we meant by keeping score.
Yeah, what we mean by keeping score is these covert contracts of I did something for you and I'm not getting enough out of this relationship.
Yeah, you don't put in brownie. You don't put the coins in the machine and expecting to get sex out of it. Is I think the saying.
That's
It doesn't
exactly.
work that way. Let's see. Thinking about sorry, this continues. Had to stop thinking about it in the first place and just enjoy my time with friends as equals for me to start feeling like I was displaying alpha behaviors again. So you're getting into the posturing between trying to play it having a strong frame versus not. That's what we talked about that before. Let's see. Red Squill. Influenced by actions is the only way to project frame. I've tried to tell friends about the TRP mindset, and it doesn't sink in, but when they want to model my actions, it's because they see proof. But first off, don't talk about Fight Club. 2, yes, you show, not tell. That's just the way it is. So anytime that you guys, and people have actually asked this in the past, how do I get my friends to join this community? How do I get them to take the red pill? How do I get them to want to do better with women and relationships and this, that, and the other?
Jesus, you don't.
You don't. They got to arrive at this on their own. You can give examples and say, hey, look, if you need help with X, Y, and Z, hit me up sometime. But
Yeah.
they have to want to seek this out. They need to hit rock bottom, just like any addict would, and they've got to bounce back on their own. That's the way it works.
If you're wondering about a guy that you want to potentially introduce to the red pill, here's the approach that I take. If you want to give them an individual piece of advice, right? If you want to tell them about, for example, a good piece of advice that I've given before is, hey, if you want to ruin your relationship, just do whatever she tells you to do, right? And that's a great individualized piece of advice. And then if they bite on that, you can say, you know what? Maybe you don't explain shit testing to them, but you just say, like, look, don't just do whatever she wants you to do all the time. That's a recipe for disaster. And you kind of leave it at that. And if they're interested in that, then maybe you make a book recommendation or something more innocuous. Maybe you recommend, hey, go read No More Mr. Nice Guy. I got something out of this. Because if they're saying, wow, where did you learn this? Right? Don't say like, hey, Joe and Mike over on YouTube, you should go watch them. Don't do that. Right? We don't need the subscribers that badly. Give them a book recommendation. And if they're still coming to you and they're saying like, dude, this makes a lot of sense, da 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 da, then at that point you can consider maybe giving a couple more pieces of advice. But yeah, don't just lay it on them and be like, this is the red pill and I'm going to tell you all about how it is. Don't do that.
Yep. All right. So flips how okay, haha, yes. Smooth wall approach to have fun rather than expecting something. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's called game because it's supposed to be fun. That's a Rhinestone saying.
Yeah. Let's see the plumber. Stock tips. Don't buy Bitcoin. It's a scam. Bitcoin as a currency, neat concept. Bitcoin as a store of value like gold, I don't think so. Yeah, no, not for me. Let's see. It's a green screen of a furniture store. Not a furniture store, but it's still funny. Let's see. Buy a doghouse. Small wall. I don't understand the context.
Not sure of some of these.
Let's see here. Arnold Cash says, I got nervous. Again, context.
I think he's talking about when he was in high school. He just that thing. Well, that happens.
So Arnold Cash, last off-topic question. I heard the Discord server was banned. Yes, it was dumb. It happens. So right now, Discord they hired some company that goes through all the servers, and they're looking for anything that could be offensive or trigger one of their community violation things. And I think we figured out what it was. Yeah, it was dumb shit. So,
but we're back up and running now is the important thing.
Yes. So we'll be a little bit more stringent in the moderation. We actually have 2 additional mods to help me, Mike, and James out. So Hopefully, we'll get a handle on any questionable content in
additional
all of those community. What's
Actually,
that?
we have 3 additional mods.
Oh, yes, we do.
Yeah.
Oats. When
And
Oats
Alpha
isn't,
0001.
Alpha, Scepter, and Oats. Yeah.
yeah, when
Shot
Oats isn't too
those
busy
guys.
playing VR porn. All right. Stoicism gives the impression of ZFG. Yeah, I could see that.
CFG. I don't know. That
Zero
one.
fracks given.
Oh, yeah, I got it. That's a good point.
You can be emotionally reactive. However, you must be subdued in emotion until it's time to act aggressively. You have to have a switch, and it has to have a slow burn, especially for women, like we were talking about earlier, where that 2 steps forward, 1 step back, the slow burn kind of effect, where you ramp up slowly. If you take a big step too fast, too far, they're going to shut you down. But if you back off and they stay, they're still cool. It's just, okay, you move a little too fast, slow things down. Okay, fine. Then you try again later.
Mhm.
So, yeah. And they're already, okay, James is hooking them up. Temp link, got it.
Yep.
Yeah, I got a big tubby. He's a Maine Coon. This 25-pound pussycat. Let's see. Women scared. This is the plumber again. Women scared of CV19. Just remember, women make rules for betas and break rules for alphas. Now you know where you rank in her mind.
This
Oof,
is so
man.
key.
That's harsh, but it's true.
Absolutely key.
Yeah. The plumber, you should add truth to the end of your name. The plumber speaks truth. I like that.
That is good.
Let's see here. And he agreed.
I think that
And
pretty
the
much.
last comment, if she's doing LMR to 2, she's just a dick tease. To 2. I don't know what it means to 2. I'm not grokking the context there, but
Oh, TO is the guy's name.
oh my god. All right, I got you now. Yeah. Well, so we have some other comments over here over in Discord. The topic right now appears to be butt bongos. I think we'll let those guys have a little time on their own. So yeah, I think we're coming up on 2 hours right now on the show. We actually got to close this because I think we only have 2 hours to do our streams. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. We will meet you guys over on Discord for the after show. The link is in the description. We will see you then. Any other final thoughts, guys?
No, we covered the bejesus out of this.
All right. This is probably the longest show we've done yet.
I think probably one of the better ones too.
Indeed. Yeah. Imagine that. Preparation. Wow. Out the wazoo. It was a good one.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We will see you next week here, 9 p.m. Also, we do the 8 p.m. Pre-show over on Discord. So come on over, say hi. We'll walk you through. You guys can prep questions, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Later.